Swati, and indeed it's my pleasure to welcome the UK High Commissioner to India, Lindy Cameron. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
We live in challenging times, but let me first begin with the relationship between UK and India. Before West Asia overtook us, all we were talking about were trade deals, and the trade deal with UK was among the first to be signed, and several others after that. How do you look at your relationship, your country's relationship with India, and how do you see India on the global stage?
Thank you. So it's wonderful to be here celebrating 20 years of Times Now's fantastic work. It's been an incredible year. I have to say, I arrived 2 years ago, just around the time of the last Indian elections, just before the last British elections. And I feel like since both of those elections, we've really taken the UK-India relationship to a new level. I'm very fortunate that we have two governments who I think both understood the importance of that relationship, but also both saw, in a sense, what they could both get out of that relationship. It's a modern relationship. It's a relationship of a modern India and a modern UK. We were really excited about the trade deal. I mean, who could not be? It's already lifted trade more than £4 billion since it was announced, and it hasn't even come into force yet. So I think we're seeing real benefits, but we're also seeing that wider relationship. I think for me, there were two really special moments last year when Prime Minister Modi came to the UK to Chequers to sign that deal, but also to sign Vision 2035, which is our vision for the wider strategic relationship between the UK and India. And then when Prime Minister Starmer came back to India with a huge business delegation to Mumbai to remind a huge part of our business community what massive opportunities India offers. And I think we see that relationship, across a huge range of elements, and I think we see only opportunity in that partnership, particularly in the world we live in right now.
Let me ask you, you mentioned that you've been here for 2 years, and these have been eventful 2 years, whether it is from the prism of the United Kingdom or from the prism of India. First, I want to ask you, how have you really settled down in India, and how much of India has gotten into you? You're the first woman High Commissioner of the UK to the Republic of India. How has India treated you?
Oh, India has welcomed me with open arms, and I have loved India. I mean, it has been an extraordinary relationship. You can see that my fashion taste has evolved already. I think
absolutely, Banarsi.
Absolutely. I hope I'm well enough dressed. I think I have loved Indian fashion, Indian music. I have travelled the country, and I want to do even more travel. I mean, I think that India is such a massive country that you can only understand it when you go north to south, east to west, see the full spectrum of extraordinary difference, but also understand the depth of the history as well, and then understand the opportunity of the present. I mean, I love standing in Mumbai, looking at that massive opportunity, the new infrastructure, the new businesses springing up, but also then actually understanding the cultural heritage and the history. So I have loved every single moment of it. My only challenge is I feel like 2 years has flown past in a nanosecond, and my challenge is now how to pack in even more to the next 2 years.
Any Indian food that you look forward to, or is it just too spicy?
No, I love it. It's fantastic. And actually, I have to say, dosas in particular are my favorite. So I think Indian bread, dosas, idlis, Indian breakfast in particular is something that I have to work out where I'm going to get that when I get back to the UK eventually. My husband loves that too. But actually, I also love the real variety in regional cuisine. So I think I will try anything. I was up in Nagaland at the Hornbill Festival trying a wonderful range of the little insects as well. So I will literally try any food, and I really love the variety and the challenge. It's fantastic.
Well, so let me ask you, from a CEO of National Cyber Security Centre in the UK to High Commissioner of India, would you like to share with us which is a better job profile?
Oh, I mean, 100% clear this is the best job, and this is the best job I've had in government. There's no job like this that offers the opportunity to be in such a massive country at a time of such significant change with such excitement. I remember that when the Finnish president was here for Raisina, he said that Finland was a country that was a happy country, but India was the most optimistic country in the world. And that's really stuck with me. I think that sense of a very exciting future and of being at a moment of inflection where the stunning growth rates, the fastest major economy in the world growing this year, mean that Indian parents think their children will have a very different life and a much better life. And actually seeing what that does to a country's willingness to invest, to plan, but also imagining what that will mean for India's leadership in the world, I think makes it a really exciting moment. And that's why the UK, one of the other world major economies, wants to be such a great partner for India. I mean, it's a really natural partnership. We bring complementary strengths, whether that's some of our fantastic educational history. We have 4 of the world's top 10 universities, whether that's the sort of research and development that we do at those universities, whether that's the City of London that offers financing opportunities. And I can think of at least one Chief Minister who's planning to come to London this summer to look for financing for his infrastructure. We think there are real synergies between our 2 economies, and I think we think the future together is very exciting.
Well, sometimes Indians say London is just, a few kilometers away from New Delhi, and summers in London seem like you're taking a walk somewhere in New Delhi. But let me ask you, before the India-UK trade deal was signed, the world was looking at a tariff regime that was going around. How do you think the breakthrough in the India-UK trade deal came through? And the big question is, when are we looking at its implementation?
So I'm sure we'll see its implementation this year and hopefully this summer. I am really excited about how we got there. We got there because it was a really pragmatic political relationship between 2 governments, as well as a trading negotiation. I think both of our amazing ministers at the time, and I'm sure you've all heard Piyush Goyal tell this story many times. I've heard the chocolate ice cream story more times than I can care to imagine. Really knew that they wanted to get a deal. They both wanted a deal that was a good deal for both countries. We've clearly got that, but they wanted to get on with it because they thought there was huge opportunity to be banked. And so what we did was that we didn't reopen any of the negotiations that had happened under the previous government. We started where they had left off, and then we pushed forward to get a pragmatic trade deal that worked really well for both countries. And that's what I think we've seen, and that's why actually everybody's so excited. And indeed, as I said, why we've already seen a £4 billion uptick in trade. And we expect this to be worth something like $25 billion in the long run in terms of the bilateral trade increase. And honestly, I'm really proud that set the way. So I think, frankly, where the UK and India lead, others follow. So great to see that they're catching up.
Absolutely. After the UK deal was the EU deal, and then the US deal, and of course, as they say, and in India we are, we look at auspicious beginnings. Today is Ram Navami, and auspicious beginnings mean a lot, and I think the Indo-UK trade deal worked that way. But when we talk about the trade deal, it all seems like a distant past that we're talking about.
It's not even a year ago. Can you imagine? I mean, it seems like far longer.
Absolutely, because many are questioning today, will we ever go back to the world as it was before the 28th of February? I'm talking about the West Asian situation. How do you look at the impact of that conflict on the world, business, growth, economies, and the impact on countries like India?
So, I mean, my first thoughts are with all of the innocent people caught up in this awful war. I think that I'm lucky because I think in many ways the UK and India share the attitude of calm, responsible powers that care about de-escalation, that worry about the impact on the world economy, and therefore that I think are interested in defending our people, our interests, our allies, acting in accordance with international law, and not getting caught up in the wider conflict. I think we take a long-term and responsible perspective. I'm immensely glad to have the Prime Minister I have who thinks in this long-term way, and I think he and Prime Minister Modi in many ways share that long-term perspective of thinking about the impact this will have more widely. So we are keen to see de-escalation. We are also worried about the impact on some of our allies in the wider Gulf, as I'm sure you are too. And I think we would like to see this end and see, frankly, oil able to move again so that the oil price doesn't rise.
Do you think the cessation of this conflict is imminent and in sight? Do you think it will be in the short term, medium term? Are you carrying a crystal ball that you can look into?
I'm afraid as a diplomat I definitely don't have a crystal ball. I can only deal with the hand that is dealt me, as it were, and I'm lucky because to be in India I have a fantastic hand dealt to me. I don't have a crystal ball to gaze to see where this will go. I think, as you say, much has changed in the world, and we are in a world where I think our politicians have to be pragmatic and realistic about the world we live in. I think we're conscious that that's true in Europe, where we've seen conflict in the last 4 years as much as it is in the Middle East and much as it is in the wider globe. So what we want is for the conflict to come to an end so that we can return to getting on with working out how to improve the lives of all of our citizens. And I think that's another thing the UK and India share, is that our governments are really focused on how to ensure our economies grow, how to ensure that our people have better lives. Certainly from my government, that's the thing they're most focused on. They inherited quite a challenging economic situation. They're very focused on stabilising the UK economy, working out how to drive increased growth, taking advantage of things like our position, for example, as the third largest AI power. And we saw the recent fantastic AI summit where our Deputy Prime Minister and our AI Minister both came to talk to India and to other countries about the exciting opportunities that technology poses. In many ways, we'd like to be getting on with that.
So your Prime Minister, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, said initially that, UK would not want to be dragged into a war that was not of its own making. But since then, defensive collective action has led to the use of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Do you think this is something that is going to determine the future of relationship with West Asian countries like Iran, and therefore have an impact on the oil economy as the world is looking at the moment?
So I think we all need to see that the oil flows are able to resume in a way that allows markets to function, allows businesses to trade, allows people to have cooking gas. I think allows fertilizer to move. We all need that return to a level of economic stability, because what we all know very fundamentally is that conflict is bad for economic stability and conflict is bad for the global economy. So we want to see peace. I think that we are, however, obviously supportive of defensive action to prevent Iran firing missiles across the region, which is prolonging the conflict and causing damage to allies and to people in the region.
The Prime Minister has received a call from President Trump. Most countries are in favor of de-escalation. Do you think there is a trigger point that could bring in the de-escalation? How do you see the situation?
I think it's extremely difficult to predict. What I do know is that our Prime Minister has a long and deep relationship with President Trump, which he's nurtured over the whole time in his Prime Ministership. I sometimes disagree, but I think that we have a really special relationship with the US, and we will continue to have those conversations with them.
Do you think America, and just from what we see and read, do you think they're realizing and feeling the pressure that the world is feeling because of the partial closing of the Straits of Hormuz and every single economy in the world being impacted because of this stranglehold on oil supply chain?
So I think every economy in the world is affected differently. It depends if you're an oil importer or exporter. It depends on your particular needs. We all see this differently. I think we saw the same was true, for example, with the impact of the war in Ukraine. It affected countries asymmetrically. So I think every country sees this differently. I wouldn't want to speak for any other country. From the UK's perspective, we are keen to see de-escalation and keen to see the resumption of oil flows in order to ensure that it doesn't have a detrimental impact on our economy.
There was some great news for India, and it's something that has followed you wherever you go, which is the extradition of some of the people in the UK of Indian interest. In this case, the courts have rejected the reopening of the extradition challenge by Nirav Modi. How do you see the extradition going forward from here, and can India expect some positive results?
So you wouldn't expect me to comment on live judicial cases or indeed individual cases, but what I can say is that I'm really proud that UK and India, as two very vibrant democracies with two very strong judicial systems, work closely together on these issues.
That's a very safe answer, but just want to ask you this: do you get asked these questions even at some of the meetings that you hold with the Indian government?
These issues come up a lot. You wouldn't be surprised by that, of course, and there are other issues that we raise as well. One of the things I'm very proud of is that we have the kind of robust relationship between the UK and India, where we both work together hugely closely, have a vibrant, positive relationship. We can also raise issues with each other, which aren't always, which are issues which we don't see the same way. But that's what good friends do, I think. I think that it is really important that we don't allow people to escape justice by fleeing across borders, and that is definitely something on which our two governments really agree.
So is there a breakthrough, considering the basic principles are agreed upon? Is there a breakthrough that can come through diplomatic negotiations on the economic fugitives?
So it's not really about diplomatic cooperation. This is about the courts. So to be frank, this is, in both of our democracies, this is where we have robustly independent judiciaries who take their own views. Governments have views, but the judiciary get to decide in court.
So, High Commissioner, I also want to ask you, you said you love Indian food. How much of the local language have you picked up?
Now, this is one I should have practiced for, but so my understanding has improved, but I have to confess I have done very badly when it comes to actually being able to speak, as my staff remind me all the time. My challenge for this year is to find a week to take myself off into the Himalayas and go and do an intensive course to try and get myself from passive to active in my Hindi. So I'm now at that point of frustration where I can understand a bit, but I can't say enough, and that's what I want to make the jump to next in this year coming.
Well, Namaste India, and it's work in progress, as many would call it. But your favorite places in India?
Oh, no, that's a tough one. So I have to say the place I think I learnt most on in a day is Lucknow. I think Uttar Pradesh has got an extraordinary history, so many layers and generations, the complexity, the geography of the floodplain, the kind of the agricultural depth. I love that, I have to say. It taught me a huge amount. In terms of beauty, I have to say, I think some of the hills of the northeast are spectacular. The extraordinary beauty of the Himalayas as you see them when you fly to, from east to west, west to east in India, and you see these beautiful mountains in the distance. But actually walking in the hills of Nagaland was, I have to say, a moment of spectacular beauty. And then the backwaters of Kerala. I think the sort of the peace, the beauty, the music. I now feel like I'm about to get beaten up by whoever I've missed out, but I think part of the joy of India is you can go to so many different places and see so many beautiful things, and there's just so much more than you can ever do in a lifetime. I think one of the things I hope is we see far more tourists from the UK coming to India, and indeed actually many tourists coming from India to the UK to see all of our wonderful history as well. I always like to do a bit of Northern Ireland promotion and send them off to go and see the Game of Thrones tour or see the Titanic Museum in Belfast. So if I'm a champion for Northern Irish tourism, I think I want everybody in India to be a champion for UK tourists coming to India too.
Well, clearly India is a flavor that grows on you, and we do hope, High Commissioner Lindy Cameron, that you will take a lot of India in your heart as you spend time trying out the cuisine, the fashion, and of course the beautiful culture that exists in this country. Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you with us celebrating Times Now at 20.
Thank you, and congratulations to Times Now, and thank you, Navika. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, High Commissioner. And Navika ma'am, may I please request you to present the High Commissioner with a little token of our appreciation. Thank you very much.
Well, from global politics, let's now shift our focus to the other issue which impacts everyone globally, and that's sustainability, which is very much the need of